Hockey podcast by, I muted my mic for a second. Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal. And I'm here tonight with Kurt Leavins. Welcome, Kurt.
Hey, David. Back-to-back high-event games. 2 wins for the Oilers, but I think while there was lots of good in both games, there's lots we could complain about too, and probably will on the podcast tonight.
And my first complaint, listen, this is just like everyone hates it when media people complain, which is fair enough. But in terms of doing our work and our job in real time, like because I'm doing the game grades tonight, plus the grade A shots totals. And the Amazon broadcast, like you can't do it off the TV. And so I do it on my computer, but it is so buggy and it is it jumps around, it's circling constantly and it clicked out at one point. It's crappy. Like some people might like the Amazon experience. I hate it. I dread these games. So there I've unleashed. That's it.
Well, it gives me the opportunity to throw a free bouquet out to Jack Michaels and Bob Stauffer because I listened to the game on 880 Ched tonight because I do not have Amazon Prime and refuse to pay for it. Actually, it's not that I couldn't; it's just on principle I will not. But as you know, I'm a radio guy. I love the radio. You close the eyes and you can imagine the play and you can watch the replays at intermission
of the goals and stuff.
Yeah,
too,
all that sort of stuff. But it is still, I grew up as a little kid listening to hockey in the radio, and it's still a magical experience. And it was good fun tonight as well.
I haven't done it. Well, I can't do it because I have to. Like I'm doing the grade A shots. Like it's part of my process for actually processing the game to do that work. But I know what you mean, Kurt. And I grew up probably as you did listening to Rod Phillips. Mm-hmm. And it was totally magical experience listening to Sir Rodney. And I had the pleasure of once covering, like I wrote a story about him doing a game. And anyway, you had the great Canadian experience tonight for the majority or for much of the Canadian history of hockey, let's say from the 1930s when radio became popularized until the 1950s or 60s when TV started to take over. That's how people all took in the game and got their impressions of the game and fell in love with hockey.
Hey, my dear late father was a Leafs fan, and it's because he listened to the Leafs on the radio as he was growing up. Dad was born in the 30s, right? So it's it was just a way of life for Canadians. So,
Kurt, Edmonton's 7-4 win over the Ducks of Anaheim. It was a high event game. The Oilers did dominate in the end. Well, they didn't dominate. That's too strong a word because
they dominated on the scoreboard, but certainly not on the ice.
2 empty net goals, but the grade A shots were equal, 19 each. Each team had 19 grade A shots. Edmonton had more of the most dangerous shots, 12-7 for the 5 alarm shots. So it was a real track meet, this game. And Edmonton had it going on the goal rush, which we're going to get into later. But let's do it. 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers. What is your numero?
Uno? I'll go with Tristan Jarry. Let's call a spade a spade. This was a very sloppy game tonight by both sides. You'd expect it from Anaheim because this is a rebuilding team with a lot of young talent who are fun to watch, but they make a lot of big mistakes. You would think a mature, more experienced team like the Oilers wouldn't have the same problem, but they do. And it's one of the reasons why, while I'm cheering for the Oilers to get back to the Stanley Cup Finals, I'm waiting for them to play with enough discipline for me to believe that that's really possible. And I certainly didn't see it tonight.
Nope.
And I think they only get 1 point and maybe none if it isn't for Tristan Jarry. The shots in the third period were 16-5 for Anaheim. The biggest save I saw from Tristan Jarry was off Seneca, who, boy, he's an exciting player. Hey, I thought he was one of Anaheim's best players tonight. At the 15-minute mark, which I was one of Jarry's best saves of the night. And in fact, Jarry had to make 5 saves in a row, including the Seneca shot. 2 which came right off face-offs that were lost in the Edmonton zone. And at that point, Anaheim was really feeling it and had some momentum. And I thought it was only the goaltending of Jarry that kind of kept them at bay. At the end of the day, that's why you need a true number one goaltender, is to give your team a chance to win and make big saves when they really matter. The 7-4, scoreboard really flattered the Oilers defensively in a lot of ways, and I thought their best defender night was their goaltender.
Uh, I in his game grades, I gave him a 7 out of 10, and I thought so that's a good game.
Yep.
He did let in 4 goals, but I didn't think there was a bad goal there. They were all
Yeah.
explicable, highly explicable, including the last one. Like initially, I thought the last one wasn't a great goal, but it did go in off Nurse. So,
Yep.
and it was turned out to be that's a pretty tough play. In the third period, Kurt, when the Oilers were up by 2 goals, there was a 2.5 minute stretch about starting 5 minutes into the period. So the next 2.5 minutes, where Anaheim had 6 grade A shots in 2.5 minutes. They poured it on, and Tristan Jarry was very good in that moment. And that's when his game grade started to go up.
Yeah.
Because that's what you want. That's what you need from a goalie. It's what you want from a goalie. I agree with Seneca. And in this age of madness, I do read a lot of Stoic philosophy. So anyone called Seneca gets my thumbs up. I didn't know that's how you pronounce his name. So they kept calling Seneca did this, Seneca did that. It was great.
That's pretty funny.
All right, my Kurt. It's mine. Good thing is more of a general comment about the Oilers' forward lines. And listen, there was a lot of action against the Oilers, so some of the forward lines probably had a lot of shots at least against them. But I thought they all kind of, generally speaking, they like in terms of the grade A shots, they all sawed it off. It was the power play where the Oilers had a lot of trouble against them, and so the year started out with a lot of new forwards. I can't remember how many it is, like 7 maybe. Like there was a lot of new faces. And it's been a long and difficult process, partly because 2 guys, Mangiapane and Frederick, really haven't turned out as expected. So going through that whole painful process and then introducing new players and trying to find chemistry, it's been a hard slog. I think they're getting there. I thought the top line hasn't been really good in a while. It was okay. I thought the Draisaitl line, they scored a nice goal when they were out there.
They were good 5-on-5.
Yeah. And I thought the third line was dangerous on the attack. There was a few defensive breakdowns and mistakes by players on the third line. But I liked the balance of the third line for the first time. Well, Henrik had some good games. Like he had about a month of good games.
He did.
But other than that, the third line hasn't had a center. I thought Samansky, he's a big defensive center, and it frees up Roslovic and Savoy to attack, which is what they did. Mm-hmm. And I thought the fourth line, Curtis Lazar, is starting to win me over big time. He made some great attacking plays tonight. He gets in there on the forecheck. He pounded Trouba off the puck and set up Kapanen for a great shot early in the third. He is totally winning me over, Kurt. Maybe the first fourth line center on the Oilers. I can say that, but it's probably not true because on this last two Stanley Cup Finals teams, there might have been someone, but it doesn't come to mind. Anyway, he's coming on, and he is going to be at the heart, I think, of either the third line or the fourth line in the playoffs. And he keeps playing like this, he might just get bumped up a notch because he's getting the job done. He is a solid two-way hockey player. Mark and Frederick had a few struggles, but he's getting it done. So the four lines we're starting to see pieces of the four lines, I think, come together in a fairly significant way. And we'll talk more about Samansky later, but I think it's all kind of encouraging.
Yeah, I think I was in the minority of people who was in Curtis Lazar's camp early on in the season, just
You
because,
were.
yeah, I know what he brings in his game, and I think what has held him back the last year has been injury, quite frankly. And I think the big question was, would he still be able to skate well enough to compete in this league after coming back from the lower body injury? I think we see the answers yes. He was never a burner, but he skates just fine for the role that he's in, and where he has really shored up this club, especially in the absence of Henrique, is in the faceoff circle. Lazar was 54% on the dot again tonight. He's been consistently over 50% all season long. And right now, whereas, they used to always have to count on Leon Draisaitl for those big time, really important critical draws in their own end. Well, they don't have to do that now because they've got Curtis Lazar, who is equally dependable in the faceoff circle. So yeah, I thought that he in particular was pretty strong tonight, even though his wingers had some moments. And hard to imagine Curtis Lazar not being in your lineup for Game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Oh, he's playing. He's playing. Yeah, his other great play was he worked a good give and go with Frederick, and he made a drop pass to Frederick, who got off a really good shot. Yeah, kudos to Curtis Lazar, and I do recall you, Kurt, being more enthusiastic. I'm just taking the players. I don't watch the other players on the other teams that closely, so I had no idea about Curtis Lazar. So I thought his start was a little bit not great, but he's coming on strong. He played 11:24 tonight. All right, your bad thing, Kurt.
My bad thing is the 5-4 goal. Not only did it draw this game to within one, a game that when you lead at 5-2, it should be over. Right. And again, it speaks to the lack of defensive discipline that is dogging this team and has me legitimately concerned about them. But there were three events on that 5-4 goal that really bugged me. First of all was Matt Savoy's stick infraction.
Yeah,
It's a stick infraction in the offensive zone. It was their third O-zone penalty of the night. And sure as hell, it came back and bit him in the ass. Those penalties have a way of doing that.
yeah.
You ask a coach, what kind of penalties are you all right with? If you save a goal, if even often in like an elbowing call or roughing call, yeah, that's kind of part of the compete in a game. Stick infractions are largely unnecessary. And unless you're trying to disrupt a guy who's on a clear break, they're no-nos, and we saw that tonight. Um, but that wasn't all. They had been doing a reasonable job of killing the penalty, and then Darnell Nurse gets the puck behind his own net. He's under full control of the puck, and I've watched this replay a couple times now just to make sure I'm not picking on Darnell Nurse, because God knows enough people pick on Darnell Nurse. But all alone, puck under full control, all he does is just ring it around the boards. And of course, it gets knocked down, bing, bang, boom, it's in the net. And, it was like last game. It's just a lack of awareness for what's going on at the ice at what period of time. The last game, it was that unnecessary lunge in the neutral zone that led to that odd man rush and the goal against. Tonight, you're killing off a bad penalty to begin with, and you make it worse with a non-careful play up the wall, is how I'll describe it. And then, of course, the Oilers, as I've said this to you before, I hate how this team protects leads. It's just they really do visibly take their foot off the gas. And it just about bit him again tonight. So there's three things that I didn't like on that play.
Yeah, they take their foot off the gas offensively, but
Yes.
they don't put the foot on the gas defensively because they're not very good at that. They're kind
Exactly,
of
which
passive.
is why they should just keep attacking. You aren't Bob Gainey and Doug Jarvis, so quit pretending that you are. Play like the '80s Oilers and try to win. 7-2.
Just keep a third man high. Like just
Just
if you're the third forward, just get your, stay
Yeah,
high in the zone.
one
I
man
saw, I,
forecheck, right?
I
Like,
saw a shift with Lazar. This is when I really started to like Curtis Lazar
hmm,
in this moment. It was the time of the game that you're talking about, and who was high in the zone, in the offensive zone, Curtis Lazar. And I thought, God bless you, Curtis Lazar.
yeah.
Why don't the other guys do that?
Well, because Curtis Lazar at that time is thinking they don't need me to score right now,
Exactly.
right?
They don't. And they don't need anyone. They don't need, and I'm not going to start naming
Yeah.
names. They don't
But
need any of them.
especially not your
You
fourth line
gotta,
center,
yeah,
right?
especially not, but none of them. You got a
No,
two-goal lead, man.
you're
Kill
right.
off the game. Pick
100%.
your spots. Check them into oblivion.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, they were complaining about Nurse on that play on the Amazon broadcast, saying he didn't move his feet. Like, and I'm sure after the play was over, he thought he was probably thinking I should have moved my feet. I could have skated.
Well,
I
if he'd
could have
picked
taken a
his
few
head up,
strides.
he maybe would have taken a few strides.
Yeah, and he could have got it out of there,
Yeah.
but he just
Yeah.
rimmed it.
I thought
And
it was a mental mistake, like his
yeah, and
mistake
then
last night was.
and then there is the horrible Nurse deflected in, which he does more like on an order of magnitude almost more than any other Oilers defenseman. He deflects the puck into the net, and I still am flummoxed by it. He's such that's just a fascinating, interesting hockey player who has a lot of good things about him, and then some things that just are killers too, and have been. And I wouldn't say that if they didn't happen in the playoffs more than any other time.
Yeah.
That's when I can't take that anymore, Kurt. And he's got to play well in this year's playoffs. He can't have this kind of stuff. He's got to
Yeah.
button it down, play a simple, physical, smart game in the playoffs, or they're going to have to move him. I said it. All right. My bad thing, Kurt, is the start of the game. And this is I think it happened last game. It's happened a number of games early on where they're getting into this weirdness at the start of the game where they're not focused. And there's three plays in particular I want to talk about that blow up in the Oilers' face. First is Roslovic's horrible penalty in the offensive end. He all he
This
has
is
to
on
do,
Gudis, right?
yeah, all he has to do is move his feet. He's faster than Radko Gudis. He's way faster. Just move your feet and you'll get it on the right side of him. But instead, he reaches with his stick and takes a really bad penalty. And then the next thing happens. This time it's Evan Bouchard, who's usually pretty strong and calm with the puck on the penalty kill in terms of icing it, but he makes a weak clearance. And it heads out to the point. And for the second time in 2 games, Matthias Janmark. First, Matt Savoy overcommits to the point a little bit. It's clear possession by the point man, and Savoy rushes out there. That point man puts it over to the other point man, and Savoy is then out at the point and exposed. And then Janmark rushes over to his guy like a chicken without a head, and they just pass around it into the middle of the ice. It's passed right into the middle of the ice. Bouchard goes to meet the pass, and it's passed around him, and bang, it's in the net. So 2 forwards, especially Janmark, who's got to know better. Like Savoy's more of a he was reacting to I think to Bush's failed clearance of the play. It's more understandable, but Janmark has got to read that like a calm veteran and cover the middle of the ice. He's not doing it. He's playing this aggressive. He's chasing the puck like a dog chasing a ball, and he cannot. You can't do that on the NHL penalty kill. They will cut you to pieces, and they have 2 games in a row. And I don't know. They talk to him or bench him. Like if it happens again, bench him. Like you can't have that on your PK. Send a message to him. Then the next one. This was just inexplicable, except for Kasperi Kapanen's been off for a while and maybe he was tired. It was the slowest. It started kind of way deep in the defensive zone. His coasting line change to the bench. He just coasts right in there from the offensive blue line all the way. And as he's doing it, they break in and they get a grade A shot because of him. It was inexplicable, except for someone who's been off hockey for a while. And I don't know, maybe was just asleep. But another mental mistake. And their defensive play, Kurt, if when you dig into it, it seems to be a lot of mental mistakes, a lot of mental errors are at the heart of their defensive problems, which I agree are real, pressing, and dangerous for this team that wants to win the Stanley Cup and can win. They can win the Stanley Cup. They can win the cup this year, but they will not win the cup if they don't mentally commit, decide. If they do not decide to play championship defense, they've got to make that decision rather than just, oh, let's try to play solid defense tonight. No, they got to decide we're playing championship defense. And I don't know when, if, can that kick in 20 games left in the season, 10 games left, or the start of the playoffs? Can that kick in suddenly where you develop championship defensive habits? It has worked to some extent in recent playoff years. They've got to the finals 2 years in a row. But I'll suggest this, that the Florida Panthers have out-defensed them in the finals, and they've played championship defense, and the Oilers haven't. They've made big defensive mistakes, and that's been one of the big differences between the two teams, or a difference between the two teams. And it's a matter of degree because the Oilers do crank it up on defense then, but Florida is just that much more in the habit of doing the right thing on defense. So that's what happens in the big games.
Yeah, on Matthias Janmark, the Anaheim power play went 3 for 4 tonight.
Yeah.
Matthias Janmark couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. He doesn't score anymore. Like, that part of his NHL career is gone. So if you're not scoring, if the opposition power play is going 3 for 4 and you're making, defensive mistakes, then what are you in the lineup for?
Yeah.
And I like Matthias Janmark, and I think he's done some important things for this club. But the one thing he has to do is he has to turn in a clean defensive sheet night in and night out, because he isn't contributing anything in the other direction, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people perceive that he is one of Coach Chris's favorites, and I don't think that's wrong. But I think if Chris Knobloch is looking at this team in the cold, hard light of day right now, he's looking at Matthias Janmark. And when Adam Henrique comes back after the Olympic break, I'm not so sure I don't take Janmark out and put Henrique in. I get that Janmark is a better skater than Henrique, but Henrique has better hands. He has a better offensive resume. He's very solid defensively. He's a good penalty killer, can win faceoffs. At this point in time, I think Adam Henrique might do more to help you in hockey games than Matthias Janmark.
And Kurt, I 100% agree. And in the playoffs, both of them amp up their physical game. Henrique a little bit more last year in the playoffs, and he's just got more skill with the puck. Mm-hmm. So I could see a fourth line, let's say, with Lazar and Henrique as being two of the big key pieces, and I'm not sure who the other piece is going to be.
Yeah.
But those two guys, that makes sense to me. Like, I think they need an energy player. They need someone who would really hit, a big physical energy player to go with those two guys, if that's going to be your fourth line. But it would be a smart defensive fourth line, mm-hmm. and I like that.
And Henrique's wheels aren't as much of a problem if he's on the wing, right?
That is true. All right, Kurt, your number.
Well, there was a couple of records set by the Oilers tonight. We've been kind of bitchy tonight, and I think fairly so, right? Because the Oilers won, but it was a sloppy game, and there's a lot of stuff in there that wasn't good that they have to clean up. But there were a few things that are really easy to cheer for. My number is 349. In the second period, the Oilers scored 4 goals in 3 minutes and 49 seconds. What makes that in itself is fairly amazing. What really makes it amazing is the goals by Stastny, Ekholm, Nurse, and Ekholm was the first time in NHL history that 4 defensemen had scored goals for the same team in that short a period of time. 3 minutes, 49 seconds. That was an NHL record. Then with the empty net goal late in the game, hat trick for Matthias Ekholm, between Evan Bouchard last game and Matthias Ekholm this game, is the first time in NHL history that defensemen off the same team have scored hat tricks in back-to-back games.
Fantastic. I'll just quickly point out one thing about each of those four goals.
Mhm.
One of the things that I that went unnoticed on the first goal by Stastny was Vasily Podkolzin starts that whole thing off by charging in there on the forecheck and popping the puck from behind the net over to Draisaitl. Just more of his fantastic hustle, and that kicked off the virtuous cycle for that particular goal. Then we have on the next goal, um, Nuge. He makes a really great like a little move on the boards and then passes the puck up to start off the goal rush that eventually Hyman and Ekholm end, but then he takes a monster hit. So he takes the monster hit to make the play. So good for Nuge on that one. The Nurse one, there's not much to say other than I don't know what happened to that Anaheim player. He's
Hmm.
super embarrassed. He wiped out at the blue line, and then Nurse just took it up and lashed in a great shot.
Yeah.
That really was a great shot. A simple play for Darnell. Just skate it up as fast as you can, hammer it in.
And I'm glad he shot too, right? Like I like
I'm
the mentality going in on net there.
Oh, definitely shoot. Just put the puck on net. He's not gonna make a. It's not likely he's gonna make a great pass, although he can pass. Like he's a good stretch passer. The last goal was the best of them because it was just a fantastic play by Matthias Ekholm, popping the puck at the blue line. And then Savoy made a nice play at center ice because it goes to him and he puts it forward to Ekholm, who charges in fast. And it's essentially a breakaway in the end, and he just hammers it in. What a shot by Ekholm.
It was.
Fantastic. It's so great to see Matthias Ekholm back, healthy, playing his best hockey. He's killing it this year. He really is, and I just hope he stays healthy because man, if he's healthy in the playoffs, that is so big for the Oilers. He's such a great player. All right, my number is, let me just find it. 732. The lowest amount of ice time in this game went to Josh Szymanski in his first NHL game.
Hmm.
Um, he almost scored. It was saved on the goal line by Jackson Lacombe. Um, he started off that rush where it went to Roslovic, who got a good shot, and then Szymanski got his shot. He blocked the shot, Szymanski, to start that whole thing. Um, he was +2 on the night. Wow. Um, but he's 732, Kurt. Like, they've got to find out. They've got to find out if this guy can play. So I can see maybe it's his first NHL game, so you're going to limit his minutes. And it was mainly that, like they benched him at the end of the game, I think, and they didn't play him down the stretch. Him and Frederick didn't get played down the stretch. Um, that's it. They've got to find out what he can do. Is he a player or not? They could end up, listen, and I wrote about this today. They've got all these really good young players through Bowman's acumen, generally speaking, in Bakersfield, and some of them have been tried out on the Oilers. Howard and Hudson and Savoy's getting a tryout. The biggest chance, and now Szymanski. But if let's say they were to move Ike Howard in a trade, they they don't really know what Ike Howard has. They have no idea what he can become because they've never played him enough. They've never played him on a top line consistently. They kept trooping out Mangiapane and Frederick. That like endless chances for Mangiapane, less so for Frederick because he was that much less of a player, even in a top role. But these they could end up trading Hudson or Howard or Szymanski, one of these guys, or Savoy even. I think they know they're starting to get a feel for what they have with Savoy, but the other ones are big unknowns. And it's because when they get a chance with the Oilers, they don't play. They don't get enough ice time to know to properly judge these players, to have them become comfortable with their line mates, to see what they can do at the NHL level. That is bad asset management. And it's also bad for your team because what you're probably going to need this year is for one or two of the, let's say one, at least one of Hudson, Howard, or Szymanski to step up and become a big player for you in the playoffs. It'll never happen under these circumstances where they're just kind of getting 7 minutes a game. It's not going to happen, and that will be on the coach. And that it's frustrating to behold this kind of pattern from Knobloch. How do you see it?
Yeah, I gotta admit, it bugs me. Um, I think Chris Knobloch's approach is that he is trying to put these kids into the best position possible for them to succeed. I think he has their best interest at heart. My problem is I don't like his execution. Um, with a guy like Ike Howard, I actually have a little bit more patience for the situation because he isn't, and I don't think he ever will be a penalty killer. And so Ike Howard is either in your top six or he's not going to play much because this is a team with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. You're nuts if you don't play those guys. And I hear people out there complaining, oh, they're playing McDavid and Draisaitl too much. No, they're not. Play their play their best players a lot, right? I totally disagree with that argument. I think that's totally bogus. But here's the case with Josh Szymanski, who who's been playing against men in Europe. He's not an 18-year-old.
No,
Like
he's
he this
23
this guy he's a man now, right?
for the
And
NHL. Yeah.
and taking a regular shift in the AHL, he is by all accounts has been their best 5-on-5 forward, their
Hmm.
best two-way forward, and takes a regular shift on the penalty kill. The Bakersfield Condors play the same system that the Edmonton Oilers do. I get that maybe there's only 7 minutes of 5-on-5 time a night for Josh Szymanski here. But convince me that you have to have Matthias Janmark on the PK and not Josh Szymanski.
You can't convince me right now. Not anymore.
I just think it's a hollow argument. And at some point, you got to wonder, is there some kind of a disconnect between Stan Bowman and Chris Knobloch? Because, what is the point of bringing these young players up if you're not going to put them in challenging situations where they might make a mistake?
Yeah.
If you don't try them in those situations, you won't know whether they can rise to the moment or not.
Janmark also wasn't very good in the playoffs on the penalty kill, is the truth. There was a lot of goals that went through his part of the ice in the
Previous
playoffs.
season, he was great, but that's a
Yeah,
long time ago now.
it is now. And especially for what is a 33, 34-year-old player, like things happen fast.
Yeah.
And as you say, the goal scoring's gone. And now it seems like the penalty killing's going. Like, yeah, how much worse could he do? He couldn't. And he'd probably do a lot better because he'll play his position like the coaches tell him. Like, so I agree
Szymanski
with you, Kurt.
he was 3 for 1 on faceoffs. I mean, if you look at his 5-on-5 play tonight for Josh Szymanski, there was 3-4-2 against.
Now, there was a lot of Anaheim power plays out there tonight. So there was maybe a little less even strength time than normal.
Sure.
But yeah, they got to find a way to get him on the ice.
There
Get
were
him at least 10 minutes. Like, figure
there
it out.
there were four penalty kills for the Oilers on the night.
Is that
How
it?
can yeah, the,
Okay.
well, no, there were four Anaheim power plays, right?
Yeah.
Because they went 3 for 4, and
Jeez.
and yeah, it's a good thing you didn't put Josh Szymanski out there for one of those, or they might have gone 4 for 4.
Okay, Kurt, anything else?
I think that's my facetious best for the night.
Maybe for the whole year, man. You might have hit a high water mark
It just doesn't make
for
sense, right?
sarcasm.
Like it doesn't add up. Like, come on. Someone needs to sit Chris. I like Chris. I think the people who want Chris Knobloch fired are out to lunch. This is a guy who's taken you to 2 Stanley Cup finals. He's a good NHL coach. All good NHL coaches have their Achilles heel. This is one of his, and someone needs to talk to him about it.
Here's what I would say. Matthias Janmark played. I was trying to look. I was just, as you were talking, I was looking at the minutes and how much each guy played. And I think, well, who's going to play less if he's going to play more? Because
Right.
that's how it works. Well, I have my answer. And it's what we've been talking about. Matthias Janmark played 1346.
And
On
did
what
what?
planet is he earning 1346? He scored 2 goals last year and he has 1 goal this year. And he's not killing penalties very well anymore either. Now he's been okay as a two-way player. He's been okay defensively at even strength this year. I don't want to go too far and say,
Yep.
say
That's
something
fair.
that's not accurate about him. But
Yep.
his attacking play, like his finishing is just not there. And Yeah, play Szymanski. Play Szymanski. Okay.
Especially now. Like, come on. Between now and the Olympic break, like, go for it, man. Like,
Yeah. Alrighty, just looking down the list of things that I saw in the game, and I think we've got it. We've got it covered tonight. Kurt, any final thoughts?
those were the big items for me. Other than it was a good night to listen to the radio because I didn't have to subject myself to what sounded like some ugly defending on the Oilers' part.
Oh, I see. I made a gaffe in my game grades. I gave Nurse a 3, and I did not mean to give him a 3 because he had mostly good. In my comment says mostly good moments in this game. Yeah, I know. I meant to give him a
But
7
I
or
fail
a
them.
yeah. So
I don't know how you do it. When I game grade, I start everybody off with a 5, and then they go up or down depending on their performance. So
yeah, I need to see their grade A shots totals before I make up my mind. Generally speaking, so I'm more of
yeah,
a last minute grader of the games,
and
and
I base my grades less on those statistics than other things. I've
yeah,
always, and I think that's one of the good things about the cult of hockey. All three of us always graded games slightly different, even though we used the same grading system, which I always thought made for an interesting read.
all anyone has to offer, Kurt, is their original take on what everybody's seeing. And if you don't give that, if you're just kind of repeating what everyone else thinks or says, like, what good are you?
Yep.
So that's always been my thought with people who write for the cult of hockey is, what do you think? Like, what do
Mhm.
you think? And I don't want to tell anyone what to think about this. I mean, people are selected because they know a lot about hockey. They've shown it over time. But and when you have those kind of people working with you, just let them go, man. That's my idea. And I think you guys have done exceptionally well.
Well, thanks, and it's one of the reasons why I'm here. Says you treat us that way.
Alrighty, Kurt. When's the next game? Do we know?
Thursday.
Thursday. Oh, a little bit of a
Thursday.
break.
Yep.
Excellent. Kurt, thank you for talking tonight.
It was good fun. Thanks, David.
And thanks for everyone listening. The smartest, sharpest, sanest hockey fans in the world. And in the meantime, and in between time, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.